Hello everybody and welcome back to the Athlete Podcast. Today I am joined by Yolshin-Cash, who is a British Gymnastics gymnast. You are an all-around gymnast and an expert in the pommel horse and parallel bars, is that correct?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, so we're going to start by talking a little bit about how you got into gymnastics.
Okay.
And then we'll move on a little bit, to the specialities and things, and talk about, what makes you so good about, so good at pommel horse, parallel bars, things like that.
Yeah.
So, tell me how you got into gymnastics then. What was the catalyst for that?
So I've got two sisters, and one of them, when I was 5, she was 8 at the time. She was a gymnast at our local club, Uttoxeter.
Yeah.
And my mum, not knowing what to do with me at the time, I had lots of energy. She thought that she'd bring me in for a session. And at the time, I was actually doing gymnastics and football. And I just found that I didn't like being out in the cold, and I liked the indoors and the warm. So I decided to stick with gymnastics. And from there, it kind of just snowballed, really. I started competing in regional competitions, and my interest grew very quickly. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, if you were a bit too energetic or something when you were younger, you Uttoxeter, correct?
Yeah, Uttoxeter.
Yeah. She could have just sent you, packing to Alton Towers or something like
that
for the day.
Yeah.
So, in terms of the actual club structure of gymnastics, I'm of course not so familiar with it as you are. What is it like then? Because we talked about this a little bit earlier before the podcast started rolling, and that you generally if you go to a class, you end up as an all-round gymnast. It's just general artistic gymnastics.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of different facets of gymnastics. As I said to you earlier, we've got tumbling, we've got DMT, trampolining.
Yeah.
What if someone were interested in something like that? What would be the route to go down?
Yeah, I'd say there's definitely different options. I think it definitely depends on the type of club and also how big the club is.
Yeah. So
certain clubs, such as Uttoxeter, just didn't have the capacity to offer tumbling, acrobatic, rhythmic. We discussed about.
Yeah.
So I'd say it just depends on that. But I'd say for just grassroots level sport, I'd say artistic gymnastics is great for all kids to get into. I think they should definitely try it. Okay.
And what was your favourite thing when you started training?
I'd probably say it's quite common, but just the foam pit. When you're young, you want to just jump in, do a flip. I'd say it's very appealing.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Almost like the ones at skate parks and things like that.
Yeah.
Okay then. So in terms of competitions and things like that, you've got as a gymnast at least, you are competing from quite a young age. I think it's just known at this point for gymnastics. What was the first competition that you went to? Can you remember much about it? Or?
I think the first competition I went to would just be like a floor and vault competition. So that's just those two apparatus, and very local, and not really big stakes. But it was good for me as a first experience to really see how I handle pressure and just get some experience under my belt. So
when did you start getting a little bit more serious, shall we say, about
I'd say
training and stuff?
I'd say when I was around 8 or 9, I went to, I believe it was the English Championships at the time. I was very young, and despite being quite a lower level gymnast, I was just in the club level. I was able to get some quite promising results. And that's when I decided that maybe I should join a different club, one with a bit more expertise, a bigger gym, more equipment.
And so you're moving from Uttoxeter?
So I'm moving, So I moved from Uttoxeter to Notts Gymnastics Academy, where I am now.
Nice.
And it's a great facility, and it has a lot more equipment.
Is that where a lot of the gymnasts go?
I'd say now, more recently, it's had a big renovation, so it's attracted quite a lot more gymnasts, which I think is understandable because it's almost one of the biggest facilities for gymnastics in the country now.
As an athlete, you want to be where the best are.
Yeah.
Not just have the company of being performing around the greatest British gymnasts in the country, but also just the apparatus and stuff like that is very helpful, I assume, especially with gymnastics.
Definitely.
So in terms of you said 8 or 9, we're getting into late primary school, sort of maybe high school age in the next couple of years after that. How did everything must have transformed around you at that point, right? Because you go from we don't really care about this, but then you hit the ages of 13, 14, and it's only been about 4 years since you started getting a little bit more serious about it. And you have to ramp it up again and again, don't you?
Yeah.
You have to stop really thinking about what you're eating. You have to start training more, building that strength. How did the transition to the proper, strict regulated training go for you? What was that like?
I'd say definitely training at a young age helped me with skills like patience and resilience.
Yeah.
Also, training alongside school was quite difficult. Of course, it's almost like a full day of work. If you're at school 6 hours and you're training for 4 hours afterwards, it's quite a lot. I'd say definitely moving to Nottingham changed my ability, and because I had a lot more expertise coaching, I was able to place a lot higher in the national NDPs and get onto the British national squad, which I'd say definitely helped me be around like-minded people, kids my age who are also going through the same thing. So I think that's what really helped me stay focused and stay on track and keep my passion alive, really.
Yeah. What sort of foods were you eating and stuff? How were you feeling your body?
So obviously food's quite controversial. A lot of people, when I was in school, people would be like, oh yeah, so you're not allowed to eat cake, you're not allowed to have sugar and all that stuff. But I'd say it's less important what I was eating and what I am eating. It's more like just making sure you're eating enough, because obviously a lot
as
of
a growing human being,
your body needs a certain amount of fuel, and if you're not giving it that, then you are going to see a decline. So
what were you in school every single day? Were you taking like a packed lunch? Or
my parents were very supportive in that manner. They'd pack a lunch for me. I'd have a sandwich and fruit, whatnot, just like pretty standard food. But
then.
Yeah.
And then in terms of I want to jump forward, to now, because you've only recently, finished full-time education at least.
Yeah.
So what does life look like for you now? In terms of, take a day in your life. Maybe not this day. This one's a little bit unique because you're here.
Yeah.
But in terms of training, the regular day-to-day activities, what does it look like now? Because you've got a lot more free time and you're ready to blast into full-time training.
Yeah.
What do you do from sunrise to sundown?
So I normally wake up around 9 o'clock, I'd say.
Nice.
I normally have breakfast, make breakfast with my family. I'm quite into cooking at the minute, so I normally make an omelette for my mum.
Yeah.
And I don't start training until 12. So I get to the gym, train for maybe 4 or 5 hours. It depends on the competition season. So if there's a competition coming up, probably going to train a little bit less, so I'm a bit more well rested. And then maybe on that day I'll be coaching at my gym club. If not, I get to go home, get fueled up.
Recover.
Just recover. That's a big thing with gymnastics when you're training so much. Is just you've got to be able to get good recovery. So sleep is really important. Maybe going to the sauna, going swimming, those types of active recovery are really important. So
How if you were to put a number on it from 1 to 10, how important is sleep?
Sleep, I'd say 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
So it's the best natural thing you can do. I think in another universe, sleep could be a drug. It's that powerful, I believe. Good sleep definitely changes the game. But
100%, especially when you're growing.
Yeah.
You might be 18 now, or you're coming up to 20, aren't you?
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's alright.
You might be 18, 19 now, but even then, you're an adult. But you've still got 7 years until your brain is finished developing and you're fully grown.
Yeah.
And so even now it's really, really important that as a legal adult that you're still getting sleep, because you're not technically fully, evolved or grown yet, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so in terms of this very transformative time that you go through, especially there's a lot of training, competing and things like that, how important is sort of the food that you eat, and the sleep that you get, and the general recovery in terms of not getting overwhelmed and injured and causing damage to your body basically.
Yeah, I'd say definitely the amount of sleep you get and has a big correlation on getting injured. I'd say the period of time where I've not slept very good is definitely brought on a lot more pain in my body and has led to injuries. So I'd say it's something that I'm constantly trying to refine and get better, because I don't know many people that have perfect sleep all the time, and it's not normal to have that, but I'd say it's something you should be striving for. Everyone should. Yeah,
because that's the time that when your muscles, they repair themselves from the day that you've had. Especially when you've been training and things like that, you've been absolutely smashing your body for 4 to 5 hours. And you need that time where you're resting, you're fully resting, not scrolling through TikTok, not watching YouTube, not watching TV, You're fully resting, and your muscles and your tissues and fibers and things like that, they are repairing themselves.
Yeah, and the other thing is that I didn't realise when I was younger is, of course, when you're at school and you're at gym, you're learning all these new skills and your brain's got to cope with that. But when you're asleep, you're actually like reinforcing what you've learned.
Exactly.
Which I think is really important, especially when you've got like a big mental stress, being like an athlete and a student, that you just your brain needs time to just like take in all this information.
Triage it all and put it in places.
Yeah, it's got to go somewhere. So
exactly.
Yeah.
This isn't as important as that. All the things that you learn every single day. But no, it's really interesting because a lot of people, I feel like in the past at least, have overlooked it, and I feel like it's only like you're one of the first generations to really look at sleep and maybe not the nutrition, because that's been around for decades, but like the mental health resilience side of things, and just see how it correlates with your performances and how it can help. Now, what's your standing on like mental health and resilience and things like that? How do you keep on top of your mind?
I'd say sport can be quite overwhelming. At least from an experience standpoint. I mean, it's very difficult to always have positive experiences in sport. There's going to be failures or like mistakes that you're going to make in competition and in training, and I'd say it can be quite hard to sometimes take these grunts, like maybe you failed at a big competition or you crumbled under the pressure. So I'd say it's just important that you just be resilient and keep going, and instead of seeing one result as the be all and end all, just see it as like just one tiny stepping stone in your career. I
mean, especially for you as an all-round gymnast, you compete individually and you also compete for the GB team, isn't it?
Yeah.
In like the team finals and stuff. And so if you fail individually, it's a bugbear, but you only really have yourself to blame.
Yeah.
But then if you fail while competing for the team, because it's different if you were to, in football, there's 90 minutes, there's 11 people on the pitch, right? And sorry, not 11. There's 11 people on your team, not on the pitch. There's 22 on the pitch. You've got 11 other people to depend on that can save you. Whereas in team gymnastics, you are the only one competing at that one time.
Yeah.
And so if you mess up, and drop points in a certain discipline, obviously you've got the 4 of disciplines to fall back on.
Yeah.
But it can really hinder the team, and you've only got yourself to blame. Yeah. Whereas someone can't come, like in football, someone can't come and just clean up the mess that you've made, basically, if that makes sense. Because you've lost those points. There's nothing that you can do about that, is there?
Yeah.
Once they're on the board.
Yeah.
So it's a very mentally draining, mentally tiring sport, I'd imagine.
Yeah. I'd say that's what makes, like, I think in gymnastics the team final is always the most interesting to watch, just because when it's like a scenario when there's only 3 gymnasts up on each apparatus and all of their scores have got to count, it's quite interesting to see how they cope with the pressure and not making mistakes.
What is there one mistake that you can think back to that you've made?
So actually at the Junior World Championships in 2023 in Turkey, it was my senior international debut, and on my first apparatus on the vault, I just put my hands down. I fell straight away, and it was like I was quite upset with myself straight away that I'd made such a big mistake. But I'd say adjusting to the increased nerves and whatnot of a competition of that scale, it was to be expected. And I actually had a great competition after that and was able to steady my nerves, which is good to see. But that's another example of mistakes being necessary. I think I needed to experience that just to humble myself and help me in the future.
Yeah, because especially with World Championships, when you widen the talent pool to as big as it is, at a World Championships, it can get messy very easily, can't it?
Yeah.
Because obviously, you've got the British champs, and from all over Britain, that's quite a lot of people that are trying to train gymnastics and things and be the best.
Yeah.
But then when you open up to the world, and there's all these different training philosophies from different countries, some that might work better than others. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It can be really difficult adjusting to that sort of stage.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So in terms of competing, I'm going to go back to the nutrition and things like that.
Right.
Now. In terms of competing, let's say morning off, maybe the night before a competition. How are you feeling yourself?
So I'd say morning of, I'm trying to get a bit more energy perhaps than I normally would in the form of like carbohydrates. So maybe I'll have some eggs and a bacon or whatever.
Love hearing eggs. Love hearing eggs.
And then maybe on top of that, I'll just have some porridge with some honey or something. Just some energy boosting carbohydrates, just to make sure I'm all fueled up, ready to go for the day.
Oats and stuff. They can,
I get you. Of course, like on a competition day, it's quite long. Like competitions take a while. There's a lot of waiting. So if you think sometimes you've got to wait up to half an hour before you have to have your turn. There's certain things you've got to do to make sure you're just ready to compete. So maybe you'll bring a sweet treat with you around with you, like a bag of sweets, energy drink, that kind of thing. So just make sure you're ready to go.
It keeps the sugar up, doesn't it? Especially if you could be called on at any time. Here we go. Let me get like a few gummy bears down me, or a Red Bull. Anyway, so let's talk about after the competition now.
Right.
I'm gonna sort of commute us on to cheat meals, things like that.
Cheat meal. I'd say probably something like pizza. Or a burger and fries. Just
pizza with pineapple on it.
Pizza. I think pizza with pineapple on it. Yeah.
Okay. I can get behind that. I'm not gonna poke the bear here because I love that. To be fair. A pizza, burger, chips.
Pizza, burger.
Stuff,
fried chicken. It doesn't really matter. But that's it. It's only sometimes. It's only sometimes though. When the time's right, if you're with like a group of, if you're like with your teammates or like you're all going out for a meal, I think that's fine.
Well, so in terms of when are you going out for a meal? When is the time right?
I'd say normally after like a big competition, so like the British Championships. Normally, like we could all go out and have a meal together. Which I think is really good for us all to like celebrate the day together, and just like reflect on our performance.
And it also helps with team bonding, doesn't it? Like
definitely.
Realistically, it helps when everybody's close together and things like that. So in terms of maybe taking like a little step back and looking at the wider picture of gymnastics and things like that, where do you think that you're looking at heading? Because I'm sure that you being so young, you've got a lot of team meals ahead of you here. You've got a lot of competitions that you're looking to get into, you're looking to qualify for. What are the next steps for Alex Cash? What's it look like?
I'd say the most important thing for me is just to try and stay healthy and get to the best competitions I can. So if you look at people like Courtney Tulloch and James Hall, who have all had like quite long careers of constant success, I think that's like something to really aim for. So like the European Championships, World Championships, but there's also other opportunities like the Commonwealth Games and of course the Olympics in 28 and 32, which are all like very big motivators and something that inspires me a lot to work hard in the gym every day. So
of course. And we spoke a little bit about this before. You're all about your like delayed gratification, and working towards something bigger than yourself, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And I mean, the Olympics is like the epitome of that. It happens, once every 4 years. You can only really go to it maybe twice at a push 3 times in any one athlete's career. Excluding a few outlying sports, of course. Now, in terms of what would be best to get you onto that Olympic team, what is your sort of pathway? Because I'm sure, like, you want to go to the Worlds and stuff like that. You want to go to the Commonwealths, but what is the Olympics is the holy grail, right? You want that tattoo. So what does the pathway look like to that?
So I'd say it will vary for different people. Certain people might be strongest as an all-rounder. I'd say for me, I'm probably more suited to be a specialist. So because I'm taller and I've got longer levers, I tend to swing better. So apparatus like the pommel horse, parallel bars, even the high bar, I tend to find a lot easier and just look better on. Whereas apparatus like the rings, because of my like height and my build, maybe isn't so strong.
Does it make it difficult to shift your weight around and things like that?
Just because, especially with like the strength elements that you have to do, like the crucifix that everyone is crazy about.
I know the crucifix.
You see someone like Courtney Tulloch, where he's like a bit smaller and jacked, gonna find it a lot easier than me, who's quite
yoked. Definitely.
So
I can see how it would help though, having his build to be able to do that.
And I'd say that's what is so admirable about the all-around champion in gymnastics is that they've got to be able to balance all these different attributes and do a good job on everything, which I think is admirable for sure. Yeah.
Okay then. So in terms of the Commonwealth Games, what does qualification, because this is coming 2028, right?
Commonwealth Games will be next year, 2026.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
I forget that
it's all right.
Birmingham was postponed, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because of the pandemic. Anyway, yeah. So what does the qualification look like for that? What kind of events are you competing in? Is it just the British Championships or?
Yeah, so they normally take it from the main like home nations competition. So there's like the English Championships. Then there's the British Championships. They also send you to like World Cups, they call them, just to get like show that you're ready to compete and to get the scores required to be on the team. Of course, it varies if you're from Wales or Scotland. There's also like the Welsh and the Scottish competitions, which help you to qualify for these competitions. So yeah.
Oh, okay then. And this is in Glasgow as well. This year is not this year, next year, the Commonwealth Games. So it's another home games. Which is obviously really, really good. Especially for not just Britain but its athletes as well. I think the home crowd, they really, really get behind the athletes of the Commonwealth, and it can really propel you. And it, when you've got that home crowd advantage, that home turf that you're competing on, it can really help the way that you compete, the confidence that you go in with, and it can also take away from the confidence that your opponents have as well. And so that could really provide a good case for why you should be on an Olympic team, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So in terms of looking at the future, I think everything's really lining up, especially with your work ethic and things like that. In terms of work ethic, etc., how do you think that a good, strong mental fortitude and attitude as well to working and putting the work in, how do you think that can affect and play off natural talent? So
I'd say, at least at a younger age, people think it's all about talent, but I think to really make it in sport, it's got to be years and years of like constant work. And I'd say talent will get your foot in the door, but it's not going to keep you there. So I'd say even if you're not the most talented or you don't have the best support network, it always comes down to your attitude towards the work that you do. And I'd say that's just the most important thing. Is like, what do you think of what you're doing, and are you putting in like the most that you can?
What's this might be a very abstract question, but in terms of wanting it, right? If someone sets their mind to doing something, in terms of wanting it, what would you say is your biggest tip to just continue and like constantly renew that interest in that thing and continue working towards it, over a long period of time where you could realistically lose interest in it? How do you keep yourself focused?
I'd say just think about your feeling after you've accomplished something, and just keep that like in your head of like what it's going to feel like once you achieve something, but also of the person that you will have to become to achieve that thing. Because otherwise it's just you'll achieve that thing and then all of a sudden you're just like, well, great, it's over now, what do I do now? Whereas I think if you look at yourself as the thing that you're building, it's a lot easier to stay motivated and think, well, I'm improving myself, and that's going to help me get to here and there. So it's like the journey never stops, basically.
Interesting. You just have to sort of take the little wins and keep on moving, basically. Checkpoints. Almost. Checkpoints.
Exactly.
And so in terms of someone that was looking to get into gymnastics or something along those lines, what would be like your biggest tip to stick at it? Because it can, you mentioned it earlier, like it's a sport that's quite geared towards a particular build, like swimming as well. You think a swimmer, they're very lean, quite tall, big, like big
wingspan,
at the arms and stuff. Someone that might look at themselves and they think, like this looks really cool, I want to do it. But I don't really think I'm the right person to do it. What would be something that you'd say to that?
Well, I would say, for one, it's never too late to start gymnastics. I think there's something in gymnastics for everybody. Whether that's learning a new skill or just improving your flexibility or your strength. I think also just the community around gymnastics and the people that are involved are great. So I'd say just get involved. I mean, there's lots of gym clubs, especially for slightly older students, maybe they're at secondary school, sixth form,
Yeah.
whatever, there are opportunities for them to start gymnastics. And I wouldn't even say it's about getting to the highest level for most people. I'd say it's also just about what gymnastics teaches you, and like learning about your body and how you control it and that kind of thing.
Yeah. And learning how you can push it to its limits.
Exactly.
As well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's really, really good, because it's good to know that, you know, people are a little bit older.
Yeah.
Because gymnastics renowned for being an early start.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And so it's good to hear that sort of encouragement for older people to get into the sport, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so in terms of, you know, like, if you were looking at it from, let's say, like a younger child's perspective, and they were thinking, oh, okay, right, well, we've got a gymnastics club in school, but it's not really very serious. You know, someone's already on the train, they're already, you know, going there. What would be their inspiration to sort of go and take the next step and properly start competing in terms of, you know, like the counties and things like that, the inter schools,
I think,
you know, where would they start with becoming a professional, shall I say?
I'd say it's important to know what's possible. So I think for kids to know who their role models are and who they can look for to see what's possible in the sport. Yeah. I say it's really important to see that you can go to the British Championships, and that can open the doors for you to go to international competitions. But I'd say from a younger age, it's just important that your family is very supportive and they're taking you to training and making sure you're eating enough and getting you there on time, all that kind of stuff. And really just seeing what happens. That you've got to just kind of go for it at that age, and not really think too much about whether it's like going to be or could be. Just got to keep going. Yeah.
And the opportunities, especially in gymnastics, there's so many of them. You know, even past your career, as a, you know, at least to compete in gymnastics, there's plenty of things that you can do. You know, one of our athletes here, Jaden Paddock, had a very, very fruitful career in tumbling, and then went on to become a stuntman, like a stunt double in films and stuff. You know, you've got Cirque du Soleil, you've got any sort of showmanship sort of, you know, role, you know, in theatre, etc., that would require you to be doing something like that. Again, also parallel to gymnastics, diving. A little bit less strenuous on the body, of course, as you know, getting up there in age, but it's all the same mechanics and movements with the body, right? And so there's plenty of things to be doing after a career in gymnastics, or even after a junior career in gymnastics, if you just fancy a switch, right? Anyway, I think we're getting on to time here, unfortunately.
That's okay.
I've been checking my watch relentlessly. I'm sure you've noticed.
Sorry.
But it was brilliant to have you in, especially as, you know, like a young gymnast. Loads of prospects. We're really excited to see where you'll go. But especially just to have you talking about, you know, gymnastics as a young person, and what it was like to be training and eating, and, you know, being a professional, but as like a 14-year-old, 15-year-old person, you know, it'll make a lot of a difference to the people that listen. So thank you very much for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me. Loved it.
Absolutely all of our pleasure, honestly. And thank you everybody for listening, and we hope to see you next time.